What's going on? All right, so picking up where we left off. For me, that was yesterday. For you, it might be 5 seconds ago. Just want to remind myself where we're at. So we can search for an exact match and it finds it and highlights it. We can search for partial matches and it highlights all of them, but it doesn't do any of the screen moving and zooming and that sort of thing. Now, another thing that I want to point out, and I didn't mention last time, see these BG SFX tracks? If I type that in lowercase, it was already highlighted, I'll do that again. In lowercase, it's not going to find it, and that's because it's case sensitive. Strings are case sensitive. So we are searching by string. So we could add that in actually. We could make it not case sensitive. And that's probably worth doing, I think. Yeah, let's do that right now, actually. You know, the original plan was to immediately jump into the screen moving stuff, but let's do the case sensitivity portion of it. I think that's useful. And if in your workflow you want to be very case sensitive about it, you can just not do this or, comment it out or something. I'll leave it up to you. But I feel like taking case sensitivity out of the equation might be a good thing. Okay, so we need to do two things. We need to make the... I was going to say we need to make this non-case sensitive, but maybe that's not true. Oh, maybe it is. Yeah, maybe it is. Let's make... all lowercase, right? So we're going to make the thing that the user types in all lowercase. And then we're going to make each time we're looking at a take name, it'll be lowercase as well. Make this take name lowercase for easy comparisons. Okay, so forcing a string to lowercase is straightforward. It's not a Reaper function; it's a Lua function, and I think it's string.lower from memory. String.lower. Here we go. Yeah, here we go. How now, brown cow? String.lower, string var ends up as how now, brown cow, all lowercase. Cool, so that's what we're gonna do. So if we want to make this all lowercase, what we can do is we can override itself with the whatever the outcome of string.lower of this is. So that's definitely something you could do. So at this point, if there are capital letters in the user's input, it will have capital letters, but this line here will make a lowercase only version of it. Cool. And then this will just be the same. So we can override take name with string.lower take name. Cool. So one of the things that I like to do with my scripts is at the top of the file, just leave any notes about the behavior of the script, just in case you forget, or if you're giving the script to something else. So this is definitely something that's worthy of a note at the header. So this script will force the user's input to lowercase and compare it with lowercase versions of take names. Sort of written in an awkward way, isn't it? i.e., our comparisons when searching are not case sensitive. That's what that means. Yeah, whatever. I think it's a bit wordy, but it's okay. It explains what it does. All right, cool. So let's just quickly try that. So now if I search for BGSFX lowercase, right. So we need to do that twice, didn't I? So so I did that in the version of the loop for the exact match, but now we probably want to do it for the partial match version. So let's give that another go. There we go. So now it's not case sensitive. Nice. All right, very good. Moving on. So let's look at this stuff here. So the first item to be found. So get the start and length of this item. We'll use what will we use that for? Yeah, we'll use that for centering and positioning of the screen view, and get the current start and end position of our timeline view. So what the purpose of that one is, we have a certain zoom at the moment. You're not seeing my full screen actually because I have it cropped in a bit, but whatever. There's a certain view that I'm looking at, and I really don't like it when scripts move the screen but also zoom in or out. That annoys me. I really like to just move it, and so we sort of have to do a few steps to make that happen. And what we do is we sort of get the screen width using the current screen width, if that makes sense. Cool. So there is this function here, get set arrange view. Now I think I've mentioned this before, but some of these Reaper functions are called get set. It's a little odd, but I guess it makes sense. It's a function where you could either get information or you can set information, and it does it in the one function. And you see this second argument here is set. So if that's true, then it's going to act on the numbers you give it. If that's false, it's just going to tell you stuff. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense. In my mind, it's could be a little more straightforward, but I guess it's not too bad. So we're gonna use this a couple of times, 2 or 3. We're first going to use it to get the get some information. So you can see it returns 2 values. I don't know if we've seen this before actually, but if a function returns 2 values, they're separated by a comma before the equals, and the order matters, right? Yeah, the start is always the first argument. Sorry, the first value that returns. The end is the second. So it's important to get that right. Yep. So local, we'll call it current. Oops. Current start. What would we call it? Current. No. I don't want it to be too big. Current view start pos. Yeah, I guess that's okay. It's a lot of words. I guess it's not a big deal. So current start, jeez, current view start pos and current view end pos. I'll do this so you can see it a bit better. No, I won't. There we go. How do I make this clear? Let's do that. So remember how you can do that? You can put a character return in and it will correctly read it. So we need to pass in the active project, which we have up here. Now, yeah, so to sort of future-proof it with readability, I like to sort of define some of these variables as variable names, rather than just writing false, because it's when you read back, it's not immediately clear what these things mean. So is set is false. Cool. Now this bit's pretty weird. The screen X, screen Y. So let's read what it says here. So use screen X equals screen end. Sorry, use screen X start equals end equals 0. So both equal 0 to use the full ranges view start end. So it's really quite not clear what that means. It's more to do with when you're setting, but it does need to know that when getting as well, which is what we're doing here. We're sort of using the get portion, not the set portion. Hence the is set is false. And then these two arguments here, I believe that is only when you are setting. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do this. So that's still there. If I'm wrong about that, let's just run and see. So hang on, where are we? We're in the exact match. So I'm going to have to do an exact match to get in there. Spawn 6.wave. That's exactly one of the ones on screen. Cool. So it got in here. It didn't throw any errors. So that means that's correct. Cool. So hopefully you're with me on what we're doing here. We're getting the current start time and end time. You can't see my mouse because I'm cropped in, but yeah, there's a start and end position of the view space, the timeline view. That's what we're getting there. All right. So that's one thing. We also want to get the start position and length of the item that we're looking at. I believe we've done that before. Get media item info value. Remember this one here is a function where you can pass in, you can query a whole bunch of stuff, some of which being position and length. So you pass in those as a string, all capital letters, and it returns to you a number that is the position or the length. Cool, so get the position and length. So we're gonna have two of these. One of them's going to be this item start pos. One of them is going to be what was it? D for double. Position. Nice. This one. This item length equals passing in the item, and this is D underscore length. Okay, all right, so we've got the item start pos, item length, current view. All right. Don't need that alert message. Oh no, let's leave it. Actually, it might be useful. All right. So first of all, we need to come up with a way of making sure that we're only doing this stuff if it's the first one that we've found. So what we could do outside of the if block, maybe here, we could initialize a variable, a Boolean. So remember, Boolean is true or false. That's the variable type. That keeps track of whether or not we have found a match yet or not. Cool. So that could be local match found. And we'll start off with it being false, because at this point we haven't found a match. You know, that's logical. So we haven't found a match yet. Now, so yeah, let's think about what we're doing here. We're iterating through every item in the session, and we're doing this comparison for every single one of them. Specifically on the force to lowercase version of that. So the first time that it finds a match, our match found will be false. So what we can do is if match found equals false, then we enter into here. Okay. So we do all this stuff, and the first thing that we can do in this block is match found equals true. So we override its initial value, which was false, with true. So then the second time that we get a match and we do this check, this will be true, so it won't go in here. So that's a really simple way of making sure that this stuff only happens for the first time we find one. All right. Cool. So move the screen based on this stuff. The reason why I'm jumping back and forth is because I really wanted to take care of that first, because it's kind of funny actually. But if you don't do this check and you move the screen around every time it finds one, if you have multiple matches, the screen's just sort of doing this kind of shaky dance, which is entertaining to watch, but it's kind of annoying, especially if it takes a long time, if there's lots of matches. Yeah, so I definitely wanted to take care of that first. All right, so move the screen. So we actually use this function again, get set arrange view. So I'm going to go back to the API and find that again. So get set arrange view. Cool. So this time we don't actually need any of the return values because we're not getting, we're setting. Pass in the active proj. Yes, right. So this time isSet is going to be true. So take note of what I did here, right? We started off with this variable as false, and then we use it here. And now we go down here and we change its value and then use it again. And that's also why I didn't write local in front of it, is because you only write local in front of it if it's a new variable. This is not a new variable, we're just changing the variable, so you don't write local in front of it in that instance. All right, so screen X start is 0, screen X end is 0. And then the number start and number end. Right, so this is where we have to calculate some things about it. So what do we want to do? Let's write some notes here. So the criteria for setting the view, we want the view to not have zoomed in or out after moving. That's one criteria. We want the item. We want the view to center on the center of the item. Okay, so what I mean by that is, I'm just going to move this. So, you know, that looks about centered, right? If we focus on the start position, it doesn't really center the item, does it? Especially, imagine if you have a really long item. So we want to be looking at the start point, in my opinion. Maybe you disagree. Maybe if you have a really long item, you want to be looking at the start. That's an interesting thought. Usually when I use this script, I'm always looking for smaller assets. So maybe based on your needs, you could adjust to what you think is best. For my needs, I'll just say that I like it when the screen centers on the center of the item. So let's run with that, and then if you want to adjust it, you definitely can. All right, so we want the screen not to have zoomed in or out, and we want the view to center on the center of the item. So yeah, there's going to be some calculations involved based on the current view and also where the item is. Cool. So one of the things that we're going to need is half item length is going to be this item divided by 2. That's how you write divided by 2 in Lua, the slash. So we're just storing that that as a value. Now, if you think about it, hang on, let me just do this. It's my Epic Pen. If you imagine that, this is the screen view. Okay, that's the current screen view before we move, right? So we got variables for where? We got variables for the current screen view start and end position. And what we can do with that is current view width. We can calculate the current width of this stuff, of the current view, which is going to be the end position minus the start position. That's the width of the screen view right now. And what we're also going to need is half current view width, and that's going to be current view divided by 2. So why am I getting all these things? So let's say we find this item here. That's the item that we want to do. So we want to move our screen so that we are, the center of the view is here, and then in this direction we have, maybe I'll change color, we've got half the screen view this way and half the screen view that way. Does that make sense? So how do we do that? So in this function, you tell it what the start and end position will be. So, new start position, new end position. And I'd like to encourage you at this point, maybe pause the video and see if you can figure out what it will be. If you don't want to do that, just keep watching. But it would be a good exercise to try and, suss out, maybe get a pen and paper and try and figure out what it would be. But so we're centering around the start position of the thing that we're looking at. So that exact point is going to be item start position plus half item length. Okay, that's going to be right in the middle. But then we want to minus from that half the view width. So that's going to push it back. Kind of wish I didn't delete those lines, actually. Maybe in editing I can put them back. So I think that's going to be good for the start position. And the end position will be this same central point, but then instead of minus half screen width, it'll be plus, I believe. I think that'll work. Somewhat complex. So I might have made a mistake, but we'll see. So we're in the exact match version of this. So we're gonna have to get an exact match. So let's do spawn 6.wav. And there we go. Now I have to point out that because I'm cropped in at the moment, it doesn't look like it's in the middle for you, but it does for me. Yeah, I guess you'll have to trust me, but I'm looking at the screen and that is pretty much right in the middle of the screen. So let's do another one. BG, it doesn't have to be case sensitive anymore, does it? So we can just do, and that's that one. And yes, it is in the middle. Again, it's not going to look in the middle on your screen because I'm zoomed in, but on the real screen, it is. Cool. So that's a finished thing for the partial match. Cool. So, there's a few things we could do. We could copy and paste this stuff. That'll work. We could potentially make a function for the rest of it. But it'll definitely work if we just do this. So, cool. All right, so let's just evaluate what we're doing. If partial match, then if not found. So let's just check where this is initialized because it needs to be outside. Yeah, okay, so it's up here. So what the script's going to do is it's going to run through every item looking for an exact match. If it doesn't find any, this will still be false. So then we come down here into the next loop. Still false. And then if it finds the first partial match, then it'll set it to true. And then it'll do the exact same stuff that we just did before. Cool. So let's give that a go then. I'm just gonna search for background sound effects, and there we go. So it highlighted. I'm gonna move the screen. It highlighted all of the partial matches, but it centered around the first one that it found. So let's do it again. Spawn. So same thing again. This is the center of my screen in reality. It's centered around the first one it found, but it has highlighted all the others. So that's really, really cool. Cool. So I didn't expect there to be a part 3 for this. One concept I want to bring up, which is sort of to do with keeping things neat, sometimes known as refactoring. And the concept is, we have this chunk of code here, and that is, I believe, identical to this. I think it's exactly identical. Certainly this much is, because that was copy and pasted at the end of the previous video. So yeah, it's quite a big chunk of code, and like, it's working, but the thing is, if we want to change this, we have to remember to change it in 2 places, and because it's quite a large section, there's a bit of overhead for facilitating that. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a function that will pretty much do everything from here. What's it going to do? It's going to do everything from here to here. So we're going to take this bit that I've highlighted. That's all going to go in a function, so that both this section of the code and this section of the code can utilize that same chunk. All right, so we need to have a name for our function. So yeah, what is this thing doing? So we're processing the match found, whether it's a full match or a partial match. And by processing is, what I mean is, if it's the first one, then we are going to move the screen to focus on it. And we're also going to highlight it. And then every subsequent match that we find, we're also going to highlight. So that's what this section of code will be. So we need a name for our function. Not sure. So bad at naming things. Process match found. Cool. So I'm declaring the function in the same way that we have been declaring our main function. So in case it's not clear, how a function works is you can have a set of instructions, but they won't happen unless you call it, unless you tell the program to run, to execute that set of instructions. So every one of our Reaper scripts in these videos, except for the very first one, I think, they were all part of this main function, but it always happens because we always call it in the end, just down here. But for this function here, we're only going to call it if we enter into the correct portion of the code. All right, so what are we going to do? We are going to do all of that. So I'm going to copy, paste. Now I'm going to go back up there and I'm going to comment this out. Now I don't think I've shown you this yet, but if you go hyphen square bracket, so you can see it's now all a comment. So that starts like a multi-line comment, and then we want to end the comment here. And to end the multi-line comment, it's close square bracket, close square bracket. It's a tongue twister. So hyphen, bracket, bracket. Cool, and we're going to do the same thing here. Hyphen, bracket, bracket. Bracket. Now let's just run the script. It won't do what we want it to do anymore because we commented it out, but I just want to make sure that, yeah, so we didn't accidentally comment out like an end that we needed or something like that. Because if you, yeah, what I'm sort of getting at is, if you put that in the wrong place, you know, now we have a problem because we've commented out an end that we needed. Yeah, so it says saved and compiled, so we're all good still. All right. Cool, so we've extracted this and put it in here. Now, how this is going to work is, in place of all that commented code, we're going to call the function. Like that. However, let's have a look at what happens. So I'm going to search for background sound effects. And then it says, can you see that? Yeah. Bad line number 1, set item to blah, blah, blah. So set media item. Which one is it talking about? So probably here. And the problem is, right, if we look at where we were here. This is where we would have got to if we hadn't commented out. You can see here, we're passing in item. Now, item is here, and it's a local variable to this for loop. Remember how local variables work? They exist for only the scope of that block. And in this case, it will only exist until we get to the end here. Once the code passes that end to this one, it releases all these local variables from memory. So what's happening is we run the script. We found a match, and then we're trying to do stuff with it, but you know, our variables are out of scope now. So match found is still in scope. Is that true? Yes, so match found is still in scope because that was outside of that for loop, and then we're calling the function here. So this one is still in memory. That's good. But we don't have item, and we don't have take and take name if we need it. So the solution to this is we need to pass anything that we need from up here into the function as arguments, in the same way that, you know, these Reaper functions, they need information passed in. Our function that we've created needs information passed in. Now let's have a look at what we need. So we need the item. That's one thing. And that's the only thing we need? I find that hard to believe. I thought we would need more stuff. Maybe we only need the item. So that's cool. So we write item in there. So that means that this function is going to expect an item to be passed in, a reference to an item to be passed in. And then this time we call the function, or every time we call the function, you need to pass in, item. So that's one there, and then item is here. I was expecting to have to pass in more stuff, but maybe that's not true. Maybe it's going to work. And there we go. It did it. Cool. So it works as intended. Let's just check actually a full match. So spawn to2.wav. Did it work? I think so. Spawn2.wav. Yeah, so that works. And then the partial match works as well. Cool. So now this has replaced all of this. So that's fantastic. We can delete all of this. So that's nice and neat, isn't it? And same here. We can delete this as well. rid of that comment. Cool. So that's definitely a worthwhile thing, because our script is now way shorter, as you can see. Nice. Now, just one note. You'll notice that I declared this function before we call the main function. Now, I'm just going to highlight this. Control X. I'm going to put it down here. I'm going to run. Cool. So attempting to call a nil value, process match found. And the reason for that is when you run the script, we start at the front. We see that there's this function that exists called main. And then it kind of reads through it and it's just like, okay, cool. Yep, no worries. And then it gets to here and then you call it. And it's like, yeah, I remember that function. I just looked at that, so I'm going to do it, right? But then you get down to here and it hasn't actually seen this yet because it goes top to bottom. It starts here, looks through there, then it gets to here, and then it's doing stuff back up here. But it hasn't seen this yet. You know, it's like reading a book and like they introduce a character on this page 70, but on page 20 you're talking about that character. It's like, whoa, I don't know who you're talking about, man. We haven't introduced that character yet. So that's one thing to bear in mind. Excuse me. You know, a really safe way to make sure this doesn't happen is you call the main function at the very bottom. That'll kind of solve that issue. But I imagine this issue might come up in different ways in different scripts, and that's the reason. That's how the script works, and that's why it didn't work in that example. Cool. Hopefully you found that useful, and I will see you in the next one.